are 64 senatorial districts. There is a man and a woman that sits on the state committee. So what does that make? 128 committee people plus the national committee man, the national committee woman, and the state chairman. So there's a total of 71, if I'm doing the math right, people who decide the policy for either party, the Republicans and Democrats, in Missouri. These overlap. It's all established by state statute. And there's one error in the top. The national committee has 150 people. It says 100. At the state presidential convention every 4 years, the national committee man and the national committee woman to represent the state party at the national level is elected. That's 100 seats. And then the state chairman of each state is also on that committee. So the national committee is made up of 150 very influential people from each state. All too often, these people are elected based on two things: how much money they've given to the party and how willing they are to do what they're instructed to do. But if we control the grassroots seats, if we control the counties, then we can control who those people are that sit on the state committee, and we can control who sits on the national committee, and we can be the influencers, as Ruth has said. Where am I on time? 5? Okay, I've written most of this out, so you can go ahead and read a lot of this. But the second thing is to understand the party structure. The third thing is to understand the duties of the precinct leaders. Those are, very succinctly, to elect your party leaders, as I have described, to identify the voters in your precinct, which is going to be talked about in detail as we go forward. And I want to highly recommend this website that's on your page called championthevote.com. This is incredible technology that will identify you. If you sign up, you'll be a champion to contact the people in your neighborhood. Very sophisticated marketing people have identified your neighbors and your precinct who are unregistered, conservative voters. Maybe they subscribe to Christianity Today magazine, or maybe they bought Sarah Palin's book, Going Rogue. And they've tracked all this, and they know who's registered and who's not registered, and they will show, using Google Earth technology, they will show where your house is with a blue dot, and where all the unregistered, conservative, probably Christian voters are right next to you in your precinct. Their goal is to register 5 million people after the same fashion that not exactly the same fashion that Acorn has used, but they understand that if we could up the conservative voter pool by 5 million people, we can probably avoid what the Democrats have planned for us, which is to try to energize the liberal voters to continue to vote, to take your stuff and give it away to somebody else. So that voter identification job is largely your job if you sign up for this. The people at Champion the Vote are making it very easy for us to do that. And then third, assist in the Get Out the Vote campaign, not thinking necessarily about the general election, but we've got to think more about the primary election, because if you don't like who is elected at the general election, it's because of who got nominated at the primary level. And if you don't like who got the primary nomination, you better back all the way up to the next section that shows when the filing takes place for these positions. And so you've got to understand the election calendar, which is point 4 on your handout, and the ones that you really need to be aware of in the context that we're talking about. All the election dates are there, but the ones you really need to be aware of: number C, February 28th to March 27th, you will go down and file for not just a for a legislative district position or state senator position or the visible offices, but you will file for precinct positions. Most of the time, you don't know about these because Missouri moved 15 years ago not to put them on the ballot unless they're contested. If just one person signs up, why should we spend the money to print extra ballots? So you haven't seen this position. The average 90% of the people I talk to at tea parties don't even know this position exists anymore. But you go to your county, some townships and wards require you to bring a petition that shows 10 other people want you to be their representative. In my county, I just go in and fill out a piece of paper. Since 1984, only one time has anybody ever else filed against me. And so I've been elected by default because nobody else shows up. That's what we're talking about here. If we show up, we control the agenda. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit more about how to get elected if you're challenged, how to run if somebody else is already in the seat. Toward that end, the first thing you probably need to do is find out if they're a constitutional conservative or not. And I've put 2 handouts in the back of this page that are 12 questions you can ask anybody at any level of office and determine whether they're constitutional conservatives or not. It's based on the 5,000-year leap and questions that have been developed by the National Center for Constitutional Studies. I've used it for years in interviewing candidates, and it's just a checkoff box that will guide your interviews with anybody running for office. And that should hopefully help you determine whether you should run for this position or not. If there's a good constitutional conservative that's in there and experienced, I would recommend that you go to them and you say, I want to become your understudy. I want to spend the next 2 years doing what you do, helping you do what you're supposed to do. In many cases, you'll find these people have not even been showing up for the meetings. They've just been doing what somebody else told them to do. If they haven't been active, if they haven't been going to meetings, then you should file against them. You should go on your computer and get a Word document out and make a 3-column piece of paper and put your picture on it and put a little list of your qualifications and go to the houses in your precinct. Now, don't go to every house in your precinct. Go to your county chairman, to your county clerk, and get a list of who votes in the primary elections. They can give you a list. In my county, I've got 500 registered voters in my precinct. Only 100 of them show up to vote. And technology today allows us to give you that list in street walking order. So you just go down a street and you say, these people don't vote, these people do. Go down there, knock on the door, shake their hand. I'm running for you. I want to be your precinct representative at the party level. Give them your flyer, so they'll put that up on the refrigerator. When it comes vote time, if you're challenged, they will be there. That's how it works. It's you don't even have to have a platform. But if you ask a couple of questions, you quickly determine what they want to see. I have to stop. The rest of the important elections here are in bold. The things you need to understand after you get elected to a precinct committee position is that on August 7th is the primary. August 21st, the county committees in Missouri will reorganize and elect county officials. On the 22nd, they will elect legislative district chairman and vice chairman. On August 25th, they will elect senatorial district committee chairman and vice chairman. On August 28th, they will reorganize the congressional district. On November 22nd, the state committeemen and committeewomen will be elected for each of these senatorial districts. I was supposed to talk about the caucus system that's coming up. The caucus system for each presidential election year is a little different. Maybe we can get into that a little bit. A big thing happened 2 days ago when the state party decided not to bind delegates to the national convention by the state presidential preference primary. These delegates are going to be chosen and bound to whoever they say they want to vote. It puts the nomination, the Missouri delegates, about 50 Missouri delegates, in the hands of the people that care the most and are the best informed. I'm a big believer in the caucus system. I think the presidential primary system, and there are reasons for that, but we're going back to the old way this time.
Praise
And,
God.
That's to our advantage. You'll just have to read the rest of this. I'm over time, but I'll be here to answer questions all day. Thank you.
The Missouri Precinct Project will have training on how to go through the caucus process as we get closer.
Okay. I'd like to help with that. I've been
We're
doing
running
this.
out of time every time. We've got so much to talk about, but it is exciting to get this to you because the precinct is where it's happening. The next person I want to introduce is Katrina Pearson, and she truly epitomizes the saying that one person can make a difference. She has, last fall in Texas, through her efforts, grassroots level, like we're talking today, they took back 29 Democratic seats. In 2010, I think it is here, Fred Thompson called her the Tea Party darling, not because she's just as cute at the button, but because she got it done. This is a woman that single-handedly turned things around. She is our mentor. She has given us a lot of advice. We love this area of help that we're getting in all directions, everywhere. I'm going to cut this short. I could go on for 10 minutes talking about her. We can't thank her enough for driving up here with Ken today, or flying up here to be with us. And with gratitude and gratefulness, I present to you Katrina Pearson.
Thank you for your kind words, Anita. We're going to see if we can get this presentation to work. Are you just going to? Okay, I'll just tell you what it's for. Feel so trapped behind a podium. These are for speeches. So I might get a little bit animated because this is some really exciting stuff that I want to share with you today. How many people right now have about 20 people in their neighborhood ready to get out there and take their precincts back? Raise your hand. 1, 2. Okay, well that's not enough. So we're going to have to figure out how to get that moving. One of the things that we like to share with everybody is, hardly anybody wants to get out there and pound on doors. I'm one of those people, but Ken makes me. So you have to find who those people are and get those people engaged and kind of put them all together. So my first slide says, got activism? And the answer is yes, because we've seen it all across the country. The question is, do you have activism in your neighborhood? And a lot of people get so discouraged, they say, oh, well, we have 500 people on our email list, but only 20 show up to the meetings, and that's actually pretty good. To give you an example, I have 1,500 members in my city group, but maybe 10 are the key people who are actually out there making a difference, and we just kind of drive everybody else the direction that they think they should be going. So I'm going to talk a little bit about municipal engagement, call it precinct engagement. All politics does start local. You don't have Speaker Pelosi without a Congresswoman Pelosi, and you definitely don't have President Obama without first having a Senator Obama. So you cannot go after your federal government, which we're also inclined to do, without empowering your states. Your states fight the federal government, and that's why we have to work from the inside out to take back our country. So you cannot protect your country if you cannot protect your backyard. So many of us are fighting Congress when there's nothing really in Missouri that's going to influence the folks in Texas. Jeb Henserling, who is the chairman of this budget committee, is right there in our neighborhood. But nobody here is going to be able to influence him, but we definitely can. We're definitely not going to influence Maxine Waters, Chuck Schumer, Barney Frank, and that's the frustration. But what we can do is... So I call this the grassroots prequel, because now that we've been on the national scene and we have stopped cap and trade, we fought Obamacare. So let's start with the city level, and I have this is set up to represent my city and the city of Garland, Texas. So if you guys have wards, we have cities, towns, and precincts. So just take it and put it back to what fits your city, because I want to show you this breakdown so you understand the victories that we have here in the end. So let's start out with the mayor. The mayor can be a really good ally of yours. He's the one that kind of goes back and forth between your city councilman. So if you can educate your mayor on things, he can take that to the councilman and kind of educate them as well. The second part of that trilogy is what I call it, is your city council. Each district has their own city councilman. Whether or not you feel like they're representing you could be subjective, but there's always an opportunity to reach out to them, get to know who they are, and just kind of let them know where you stand. And the final part is the staff. Now the staff is everything else in your city. Okay, everything. Go ahead. This includes all of your boards and commissions. Keep going. Boards and commissions, city manager, city secretary, and city attorney. The reason why I have an asterisk by city manager is because this is the person that signs all the contracts for your cities. So I've noticed a lot of people go and they gripe out their councilman creating a bad relationship, and the councilman really doesn't know what you're talking about because it's your city manager who's actually making those decisions. He may or may not have consulted the council, or he may or may not have given them all the details. So if you ever run into an issue, your city manager is the one that you should be checking with. Also, I would suggest, doing an open records request to your city secretary and asking for all of the employment contracts of these individuals. You will find there are some sweetheart deals with your city managers and your city attorneys. Your city attorney can be a good ally because if you know your state laws, he's a good person to talk to before moving forward, and then he knows that you're serious about what you're talking about to your city. My city now is afraid I might sue them for whatever reason. And our city attorney is not on the same side as I am, but his job is to represent the city and the law in the state of Texas for the city of Garland. Your city secretary could be a great friend simply because she's the one who processes all of your open records requests for your city. If you're looking for presentations given to council in a work session, she's the one that gets that for you. When you do ask for the employment contracts, she's the one that gets that to you. I have a good relationship with our city secretary. If I ask for documentation in the morning, I have it in my hand by the end of the day. I don't have to wait that 10-day wait period. So making friends with these people, whether you like them or not, actually is very helpful. And now on to your boards and commissions. Go ahead. These are your animal services, parks and recreations, housing standards, utility boards, building and fire, plumbing and mechanical, and they go on and on and on. But your most important commission in your city is going to be this plan commission, or planning and zoning commission. These are the people that decide everything else that goes on around you as far as businesses, developments, residential areas. Go ahead. So these people are appointed by city councilmen. And it's hard to know where they stand simply because there's not a Republican or a Democrat attached to your municipal races. But if you can look at the views of someone, let's say, in your plan commission and see if they're more liberal or more conservative, then you can pretty much gauge who your city councilman is more representing. The plan commission, go back. The Plan Commission approves subdivision plats and variances to development standards and makes recommendations regarding zoning change requests and advises the City Council regarding comprehensive planning. So I'm going to give you some terms that I want you to write down. One of those terms is comprehensive planning. Special studies and ordinance amendments. Go ahead. So, this is what we're going to use to take back our neighborhoods and work through our precincts and fighting sustainable development. Go ahead. Through using Agenda 21. Who has not heard of Agenda 21? Excellent. Okay. So I found this little tool to be really helpful in getting people engaged because, like I said, you can't take back your country if you can't protect your backyard. And so many people have no idea what's going on in their backyard, and the federal government holds nothing on that. Go ahead. Keep going. So So everything that I have pulled out in regards to Agenda 21 came out of the actual Agenda 21 project documentation. So any definition I give you, any term I give you, it's all in the book right out of the United Nations. Agenda 21 is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations systems, governments, and major groups in every area, and I mean every area, which humans impact the environment. Go ahead. Now, this is a nonpartisan fight that we have. George H.W. Bush adopted the United States plan, and Bill Clinton established the first Sustainable Development Council. So this is a shared effort. They're all doing it. They're all just as guilty. And the details are just way too many to get to, so I only picked out a few to kind of help us get along here. Economic prosperity, social justice, all in the name of sustainable development. Okay, let's talk about those two things. Economic prosperity, what is that? Government-sanctioned monopolies, which are public-private partnerships. Have you ever heard of those?
Solyndra.
Tax abatements, which is another name for corporate welfare. High-density housing, which we call back in Texas stack and pack. And they'll even use eminent domain to build these development projects. Go ahead. This is a picture of kind of what these things look like, where you have the residential on top and the retail on the bottom. This is a perfect example of the type of structures that are going up, utilizing the tax abatements, the public-private partnerships, eminent domain, all of the above. Go ahead. This is the city of Garland. This is a typical land use map that most planning commissions do. The high blue area is, we have a lot of manufacturing. We're probably the 4th or 5th largest city in the state of Texas. Go ahead. But this is what our new map looks like. See those little outlined areas? Now, the little burgundy areas, and some in the top, some in the bottom. Well, those are called catalyst areas. So every city now has those. And these are the areas where the city wants to take total control of the land use in those areas. Go ahead. Now, the social justice part, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Keep going. It's an equal opportunity situation. People should benefit equally from society's resources. Businesses, they use retail pruning as the term that they've used in some of the plans, and it's regardless of market feasibility. So essentially, your city council or your planning commission will get to pick and choose the businesses that go into those facilities. And on the personal side of things, they have neighborhood management organizations. Many of you have them already. Housing and lifestyle intervention. There is lifestyle intervention in some of these comprehensive plans. And some of these neighborhood programs, I had a friend in Iowa call after learning about this stuff, and he said, "Can you help me? Because we've already passed our plan, and apparently our neighborhood management systems are already in place, and these people are now being given police authority in their neighborhoods." I said, "I don't know what to tell you." So now he's running for city council. That's just how important this stuff is. So, sustainable development, if you haven't written it down, write it down. This is already a tentacle in all of our lives. So, local sustainable development policies, and I've included some. These are probably what's included in the majority of the local plans here in the United States. And one of those is smart growth. Keep going. The Wildlands Project. Who has not heard of the Wildlands Project? Okay, this is a part of Agenda 21 where they want to completely eliminate human interaction in certain parks, and where we go, like Grand Canyon is one of them. They want to eliminate any human activity in those areas, just to completely preserve it for nature. And they are actually getting some property owners to go along with this. I'm not quite sure how, but this is definitely, if that's something you're interested in, something to look at.
The Ozarks in Missouri are part of that.
And the Ozarks, perfect example. Pretty soon you'll no longer be able to go visit the Ozarks. Cool Cities, which is a green initiative, and that's self-explanatory. Then we have green buildings. Most of the buildings that are going up now have to be LEED certified. And you have alternative energy, which we know now that they're really trying to push natural gas. There is a bill in Congress right now to do that, driving up that demand. And then sustainable farming. So while we were all talking and tweeting and Facebooking about Wienergate, the president signed an executive order for the Rural Council, which will be taking over rural America. Keep going. And something that was pointed out to me was this executive order is 13575, and 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 5 is 21.
Oh, wow.
So, keep going. So, June 9th, 2011, he issued a sweeping executive order for a White House Rural Council that purports to exert broad municipal powers over the food, fiber, and energy production of rural America. Keep going. That means you will now have to have a license to drive your tractor across the street, among several other things. Keep going. So what this really means is the ultimate regulation of life. So whenever you see the term sustainable development, you know it's connected to global warming, and all that comes from Agenda 21. All this information is available. Where this came from, keep going, keep going. Write this down, ICLEI, I-C-L-E-I. This is the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, but please note, they now call it Local Governments for Sustainability. They realized that we were on to them and they changed their name in the process. So communities pay ICLEI dues to provide local community plans, software training, etc., all part of accepting federal dollars into your states and cities. So chances are, if you brought in stimulus money, this was attached to it. So Melissa Stoltz, the climate director for ICLEI USA, an association for local governments, said, and this is out of the New York Times, May 22nd, 2011, many of the administrations that she's dealing with were following a strategy of discreetly integrating preparedness into traditional planning efforts. So when your municipalities go on their yearly conferences, whether it's the Mayor's Council or the Sustainable Government Council, they're all being trained how to implement these things, but they're probably not being trained on the terminology that we now know. Keep going. So who is participating in these projects? Pretty much everybody. And this is just for Texas, but the North Texas Council of Governments, Planning Council, Renaissance Planning, International City Council Management, Mayor's Conference, League of Cities, any municipal organization is probably a member or attending these conferences. And they're all funded by private organizations, government agencies, foundations, and even government grants. So we just continue to fund our demise.
But some municipalities are already getting out of it.
We're one of them. So the problem is, we're a little late in the game on this, considering that 178 governments adopted the program in the early 90s. Public workshops began, and for my city, in early 2003. And surveys were actually sent out to communities in 2006. And some of our testimony is, well, we never got a survey. But apparently there were people that were given surveys. Several cities have already adopted the plan, are in implementation mode. Now I say the key is to stop this plan from being adopted, because once it's adopted, you're going to have to fight it at every phase of implementation. So back to my city, down there at the bottom circle, hit one more time. I'm going to focus on that little area right there that's highlighted in the bold print. There is a highway called 635 in North Texas, and it goes all through North Texas, and I avoid it every chance that I get. But there's a development project going on over there, and it's been vacant. Let's see, I think I was in high school when that place was vacant still, and the guy has been paying property taxes on it ever since. So someone came in and said, you know, we just want to develop this little piece at the bottom. That huge triangle, you'll see that white building at the top of that triangle, that's an old hypermart. They tried a hypermart, they tried a Walmart, the thing just wouldn't work, and it's been vacant. At the very bottom, that building at the top of the yellow triangle, that's a car lot. car dealership. 2 owners in this big triangle, so one of the owners at the bottom says, I want to develop that. So they go to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission says, no, we don't want that there. We want something else there. And this has been going on for years. So this guy's name is Dallas Coffern. He called me up and said, you know, I'm trying to get this project done. He's representing Racetrack, the petroleum company, and says, we've been working with the Planning Commission in your city, and we're having to abide by all of these Envision Garland regulations. And so a red flag went up in my mind, because we started back in December fighting against our comprehensive development plan, i.e. Envision Garland, and beat it. So what I just found out is that our city is implementing it anyway. Okay? So that's all I needed to hear, and I said, I'll help you. So we got all the details and pushed it out to our grassroots. So the zoning change in 2008 made it a little bit more difficult because the property's been vacant, still vacant since 2009, and 90% of the inquiries have all been turned down because the Planning Commission said, we don't want that there, we don't want that there. The property behind the triangle has been vacant for years. There are 60 vacant boxes on the triangle, 2 separate owners, 2 different visions, and they only want to develop 6 out of the entire 42 acres of that triangle. Planning Commission turned it down with a 6-3 vote. So we knew going in that the City Council vote was going to be probably 6-3 as well. So we had work to do. Now here are the issues with this particular area. The main road that this is going to be going on, this is the road that comes from Dallas into Garland. It's called Shiloh Road. It's scheduled for construction next year. They're taking that lane from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. So there's going to be a ton of construction, which means there's going to be reduced sales, restrictive curb cuts. Nobody wants to build a business and you can't get to it without going and making a U-turn. Transmission lines on both sides. There's a railroad. It's a triangle, which is extremely hard to develop. But the owner's been paying $30,000 in taxes this whole time. So then we had the testimony. Go again. And this is probably where our biggest problem came. Simply because every resident in District 5 came out and didn't want the gas station. The city councilman in that area didn't want the gas station. And it was unsightly. There were too many gas stations. Like I said, we're an industrial city. And it was very disappointing. And the Plan Commission specifically said, we want to save all 42 acres. But it's not their land. That's the problem. So we tried to communicate this to the Plan Commission, to the City Council that evening. So all the residents in District 5 came out and said, no, we don't want it, it's unsightly, we don't like it, we don't want it, period. There's not much we can do at this point because that's not our district. Go ahead. But what we could do is we showed up. Now, you can't drive to DC every other week to testify, but you can go to your City Council meeting to testify. There's no excuse for that, right? So, one after another, we testified as well, and I think that's later on, but go back. So, Dallas said, here's what we want to do. This is before anybody even knew what they wanted to do. So, here's our little highlighted yellow triangle. Go ahead. And this is the building that's kind of right there at the top. That's where the car salesman were pretty much. He says, I'm going to take that and I want to turn it into this. And we said, wow, that looks kind of nice, especially with the big eyesore that's there right now. And so then he said, okay, and then we want to go to the bottom tip. And we don't really have anything to build there, but we're going to do it anyway for you. And we're going to turn it into this. He said, well, we'll hire a historian. We'll have him come out and build something nice about Garland for people to come and see. We'll do everything at the bottom tip of that. Go ahead. He said, what we want to do is to put our very first signature store in your city. There's no other store like this in the country. So their plan was to put in $5 million to this store, be the largest in the country, this first signature. They will assume all landscaping responsibility. They've asked for 0 tax abatement, which means Racetrack wanted to pay for the project 100%. They've also included $3 million to go in adjacent properties to upgrade them, signage and things like that. They asked for no additional signage on this particular area. They'll build it for cars only, which means you won't get the trucks coming off the highway and stopping in. They even offered to build the DART stop, which is our Dallas area rapid transit. So the city doesn't even have to build the DART station. And we want to create 30 to 40 jobs in this community, which I think is really important right now. Go ahead. So that was the plan. So then this Tea Party gets up and they start going in and talking about the importance of property rights, the importance of free market, the importance of gas prices, because once the store goes in, all those other gas prices come right down. They started talking about the importance of jobs and how it's not the city's role to be telling people what they can and cannot build on their property. And then someone made a great comment saying, "Who are you waiting on, Trump? Trump's not going to come and build in that area." So one after another, keep going. The city council finally had to come to a vote. The problem was we knew it was 6-3 going in, okay? So we have a problem. We had really good testimony, very good facts, constitutional issues brought to the table, and this is about 11 o'clock at night now. This went on for hours. So the mayor said, okay, let's just take a break. Let's just take a break, go to the back, and figure out what we can do about this. So keep going. Keep going. So the mayor comes back and says, let's just postpone. Let's postpone this, and they asked master plan to come back, they asked racetrack to come back. They did not want to vote on this that night. And so they're looking at us and we're like, make them vote, make them vote. And so he's trying to say, oh, well, you know, it's up to the council, whatever. And so finally we had one of our guys on the city council push the motion. Say, all right, let's postpone it. But it failed, 5-4. So they had to vote on it. So when they took this break, go ahead. When they took this break, it was a 10-minute break. Everybody was talking and conversing and you know, hearing each other out. And then the mayor comes back and he brought the session back into order, and the secretary says, "Mayor, I have an announcement." And he said, "Yes, Madam Secretary." Go back. And he said, "Yes, Madam Secretary." And she said, every citizen in District 5 had come up at the break and changed their position to support the racetrack development. So that changed everything. So there was not one registered in opposition to this plan. So the vote was forced and it passed unanimously. So this is a huge success. And this was just maybe 10 to 15 people showing up to testify. That changed everything, because not only did it force the city council to make the right decision, but it educated the citizens that weren't quite understanding what the issues were. And it's all on video, so we can use that and keep it pushed out. Go ahead. So what happened? Keep going. What happened? The Garland Tea Party in that area happened. We did what we're supposed to do. We educate the public, and we educate those that we've elected, and we won. And I call it Psychology 101. And some people have burned bridges, because the first thing that they do is they go to their city councilman and they say, "You're destroying my country and you're trying to ruin everything and you're a part of this big conspiracy." And the city councilman's going, "I have no idea what you're talking about, but now you're crazy." Okay? You are now wearing your tinfoil hat, and I will not ever listen to anything you ever say again. So we have to repair some of those relationships, whether it's getting someone else in your group or another neighbor to go and bring them back to the table. And just treat people the way that you want to be treated, and approach people the way that you would like to be approached. Call up your city councilman and say, "When can we have coffee? There are some things that I really want to talk to you about." They will do that because they want to be reelected. And so what we did from December all the way through this March, April, May business is we constantly met with our city council. We'd give them documentation. We'd show them the Constitution. We would pull up cases to where these types of things weren't functional. We brought up the free market aspects. We sent them newspaper articles that came out. For example, that May article where she admittedly said they were doing this thing discreetly. Because when you go in there and say, oh, Agenda 21 is a conspiracy to take over the world, when you're not really connected that way, there's really no way to process that. So it's very important that we work on how we communicate. So you have to know your audience. If you know you're going up against a hardcore liberal, then you have to be able to talk to that person without them shutting down. Use things that are important to them. Whether it's, well, this is why this is important, because the children in this area are going to suffer. You just have to know your audience. And what's your message? Are you complaining or are you educating? Because if any of you have ever had children, when you're complaining, it just goes in one ear and out the other, right? And these people that we have to deal with, our elected officials, all they hear is complaining. Day in and day out. My neighbor's noisy, I've got a pothole in the backyard, I need you to fix that person down the street. It's all complaining. So don't complain about what's wrong. Educate them on why things are not going the way that they should. So don't complain, don't tell them what you don't want, don't constantly say no, 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 no. Provide solutions. Bring something back to the table so that maybe it's something that they've never even thought of. Do tell them all the positive things that's going on in your cities, because obviously not everything is bad. Maybe we do have some good programs that have been benefiting some people. So talk about the good things so that they know that you're seeing both sides of who they are and who they represent. And you have to get organized, because if you have 5 or 6 Tea Party people or 5 or 6 grassroots people all hitting one person with the same thing, then they're getting either the same message over a 5-hour period or sporadic messages that are just kind of all over the place and nothing ever makes sense. So we have to get organized and we have to have a planned approach. So I suggest getting your comprehensive development plan from your city and only using that plan. Don't use my plan, don't use Agenda 21's plan, use your plan. And read it. Our plan was 206 pages, and what we did is we broke it up between 5 or 6 of us, and we became experts on our little parts. And work with outside groups. Go ahead. We worked with the Garland Automotive Association. Keep going. And what these Agenda 21 type plans are doing is eliminate the use of automobiles. That's why you're seeing less parking, higher density housing, and walking trails. I mean, we've got things that we need to be fixing, and yet they're building bike trails and walking trails. They want you to be able to walk to the mall instead of drive to the mall. So the automotive associations in your areas are very good allies with this. But they did a similar letter to the city and testified with us on the same evening. So work with your allies. Create your own sustainable development team. If they can do it, we can do it. And they become your experts on the plan, they stay up to date with the issues, and they're the ones that go and testify on behalf of your group. So divide the plan up by topic. Use illustrations and graphics from your plan. Like you saw the maps that I used, those came directly out of my City of Garland plan. So you can never be accused of, making it look like it's not really what it is. If you use what they give you, they have nothing else to go on. Cite from your plan. Don't talk about what I said about the implementation of Agenda 21. Use the words that are in your plan. Keep them there. Always use those. Point them out to them at every hearing. So they can't ever say, well, you're just talking about 2 different things and trying to make it out to be something else. Well, it's not true. This is what the plan says. And provide solutions and amendments. Go ahead. We actually took our parts and we cited page, section, number, line, and we just struck out whatever was inappropriate and added what we felt like it should have said.